But yeah, so Chris, thanks for hopping on. Um, let's just get right into it. We kind of want to get a feel for who you are and your kind of origin story into like the running space. Like, where did you always run, or how did that kind of get going for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started out kind of lifting first. So it was more strength training, played a lot of basketball with my friends. And so I did not start running until maybe 6 years ago, I would say, 6 or 7 years
Okay.
ago, maybe less. And that was just kind of came out of, I guess, seeing other runners, being in New York City, seeing the run groups and the community that they kind of built, and I was really drawn to that. And so that kind of kickstarted my running journey, and my interest in constantly challenging myself and improving myself.
Okay. And so, did you do it like? Did you just start right away, or kind of what was the process leading up to? Yeah, and what did the beginning look like as well?
Oh yeah, the beginning I think for a runner is always rough with any sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're trying to kind of navigate what you're supposed to be doing. Um, so one of the big, I guess, issues that I had, which I tell everyone, is that um, I always tried to race my own times starting
Mm-hmm.
out running, and I think that was the biggest like no that like I should have known better about, but I didn't because there wasn't any really information about that. All I saw was people posting their fast times, their races, their success stories, and so I was like, hey, I got to run hard every single run to kind of achieve that. So, I started out, my goal was to run a 5K, like most people starting out. And every training run was a 5K, trying to beat my previous time. And so I
Yeah.
think that was the most difficult part about my running journey is just kind of taking that wear and tear in the beginning of trying to always race myself.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a very like common thing to kind of, like you
Yeah,
said, see everybody's best times online and then think that you got to be hitting that every time you run. And
for
so
sure.
how do you kind of how does a beginner, or how does even like, a seasoned runner like yourself manage the times? Like, if let's say you're going out for a run that's supposed to be easy, how do you know what pace to push yourself? If you feel like you can go faster, do you go faster, or do you just stick to a pace that you set before? And then how do you set that pace before?
Yeah, so I think with experience, racing more and just running more, I think it comes down again to what your goals are. Not every runner is going to race. Um, and so for some people, it just means just enjoying an easy run every single day.
Hmm.
And so for me, though, when I do throw in races once in a while, what I've learned is just to take those easy days really easy. And I know it's been repeated a lot more now with social media, and it's more accepted, and people have shown that it's been working. And as I've continued my experience with running, I've actually continued to slow down on my easy days,
Really?
and then on my like workout days or my hard days, I'm trying to hit those target paces, and it's really been paying off going easier on those easy days, allowing my body to kind of recover. And so that is a big part of it. And then if you're on a time constraint, again, your easy days, maybe you don't go by distance and you go more by time. So
Mm.
if you only have 45 minutes, say, hey, I have 45 minutes. I'm just going to take it real easy. And a way to kind of keep yourself in check is, maybe run with someone, have a conversation with them. Sometimes I'll play music and just kind of sing along to it.
Mm.
Just have fun, just knowing that I'm taking it real easy and I can get sentences in. I can, not be gasping for air, stuff like that.
Oh, and so is that a good kind of marker or judgment, to kind of base those easy runs off? Is like if you can talk to somebody as you're running.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a great marker. One of the terms that runners use is conversational pace.
Mm.
So being able to hold a conversation, talk about your day, talk about work, whatever it is, to be able to hold a pace or an effort based on having a conversation, I think is a big part of it. I always tell beginner runners just because it's a little hard to gauge that. You don't really have a baseline on what's hard, what's easy. Just because when you're starting out, everything feels hard.
Yeah.
Um, as a very rough guideline, and that this can fluctuate, is just taking your 5K time, your best 5K time. Even if you've never raced it, you maybe have a time trial on it, and just add about 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes per mile. I usually go by like minutes per mile, to that 5K race pace. So let's say your 5K race pace is 6 minutes per mile. So then your easy days should be around an 8:30 to a 9 minute per mile. So that's kind of like a
Okay.
baseline, I would say, to get started. But then again, it's all effort based at the end of the day. So if you've had a really rough workout the day before, that easy day, the day after, might look a way slower, just to kind of get your body back to where it is.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really useful tool just because it gives you a, a hard number to go by. I think that's what people
Yeah.
look for when they're training. But and so
Yeah.
how do you split up your week? I know you also lift a lot as well.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the slow runs with the workout runs and then obviously the weightlifting?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm only lifting about 3 times a week. And I'm pretty much hitting those lifts real hard just because I only have those 3 days. I want to optimize those days of lifting. So I'm pretty much starting my week off on a Monday, and I'll usually start off with a leg workout, a leg strength workout, um, just because I used to hate doing leg days, and I
Yeah.
would save that for Friday, and then I would always end up skipping it because there would be a long weekend or whatever it was. So legs were always skipped, just like everyone else skips. When they first start
Yeah.
lifting, they're like, "Oh, this is not important," and then you realize, as an athlete, how important. It's a top priority. And so Mondays, kick my week off with a leg lift, and then I'll go out for a very easy run, usually around like 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Um, and that will keep really easy. Just kind of loosen up the legs from my lift. And then on Tuesdays, I'll do like a chest and a tricep workout, just a little bit more of an upper body, and then another easy run. And that would be maybe a little more stretched out, maybe the same as Monday, just kind of, anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour, just to get my body ready for Wednesday, which is, like usually a medium long to long run, or a workout on Wednesdays. So I'll usually do like a track workout if I'm like kind of in a training cycle for any race that might be coming up. And then Thursday is just like a really heavy back, shoulder, arm day, just to kind of, keep that strength, build some core strength as well. And then after that is a Friday, and my body's usually destroyed after my lift session. So
Yeah.
Friday is actually a recovery day. So that pace will usually be even slower than my easy days. That's almost like it almost feels like a walk. And sometimes if my body's like totally destroyed, I might have to walk in the middle of a run. Like
Yeah.
I'll go out for like 45 minutes again, just like about like a 9:30 pace. I'll
Okay.
usually try to stay around there above 9 minutes. Um, just kind of get my body ready for the weekend, which usually Saturday, I'll usually get another, tempo or a long run in. And so my body will still be a little sore by then, but it feels a lot better after the Friday's, kind of easy recovery session.
And so do you feel like how do you feel like your recovery's been throughout the week? Are you starting Monday sore or
Um,
how do you
no, I'm
manage with
starting.
that?
I'm starting Monday totally refreshed. So Sunday night, full rest day. Well, entire Sunday, not just the night. But Sunday, I'll wake up, try to get a mobility, session in, and just that's it. Like no exercise, like no biking, no cross training. It's just stretching, mobility. Um, try to do a little bit of yoga, and then get the body right, and then just like full day of just like enjoying the weekend, eating, and then just sometimes I'll even take a nap, during the day, and then by Monday I'm just like refreshed, ready to kick off the week.
Ready to go. And so
Yeah,
I mean I saw you talking about overtraining.
yeah,
And so that's I think a big thing, especially with new runners. I mean,
for sure.
even with experienced runners, overtraining can creep up on you. And so, what kind of are your strategies for managing it during the week? And
Hmm.
also, if you do slip into an overtraining type thing, what are the first things that you notice, and what do you do to kind of
Okay.
get out of it?
Yeah. So I think it definitely comes with experience. As new runners, I think we tend to ignore our bodies. Not like we're so stuck with, you know, going with the plan or hitting our goals that we usually ignore what our bodies are telling us. So that comes with experience. Over time, knowing, hey, this part of my leg is kind of bothering me. I need to pull back my training a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I had dealt with like IT band issues a few years ago, and I didn't even know that was bothering me until it was like full blown like really bothering me.
Yeah.
I would like ignore it. And so now, like, okay, if I feel a little twinge in my leg, I'm going to kind of pull back my training, strengthen my glutes, work on mobility, things like that. Um, and so that's a big part of it comes from experience, listening to your body. Some other things are when your sleep is kind of interrupted. You would think that if you're overworked, you would sleep better. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's not the case. Sometimes you're overworked, your heart rate's elevated, your resting heart rate is elevated. So that also affects your sleep, how calm you are during your rest. And so that's a big part of it. And then also your nutrition, just like cravings. Sometimes that comes with overtraining as well. Like your body's just needing more nutrients. And
Hmm.
so when you're just craving like sugars, sweets, like junk food, stuff like that, you kind of know like you're not giving enough nutrients to your body, which also means your training load might have gone up as well, and your body is just kind of trying to adjust to that. So all those things you kind of have to factor in. It's just like one big formula. It's
Yeah.
it's really hard to kind of like pinpoint, one thing that's telling you that you're overtraining.
Exactly. And that was basically the reason we started Ion, was because of it. That exact thing was overtraining. And
Yeah,
I found that nutrition, like the minerals and stuff like that, alongside the nutrition, is really what anecdotally benefited me. And then after doing research, saw how big that was, in terms
yeah,
of the general stress, that the training puts on your body and stuff like that.
yeah,
But so I can relate to that as well. I mean, it's a very tricky thing you gotta balance.
yeah. I
Um,
think as athletes, we're always trying to push the boundary, right?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
you're like, what's the fine line of getting injured, overtraining, and
Mm,
then optimal performance, right? And so
yes.
I think a lot of that time, also as experienced athletes, like, we're kind of finding that boundary, which does lead to injury or overtraining because we are really pushing the fine line of, okay,
Exactly.
like how many miles can I run a week without getting hurt?
Exactly.
It's not like what's the
Yeah.
optimal
Yeah.
mileage I should be running. It's like what can I do without getting hurt?
And that's the thing too. I
Yeah,
don't think, like, I mean, physical activity is healthy, but I think there's a limit to everything. I think
yeah,
the more you train, there is, this is not based on it. This is, I think, an opinion of mine, but I think that the
yeah,
more you train, there's a level where it becomes almost unhealthy, whether it be
yeah,
physical, mental, or something else. But so,
yeah,
like you said, you're pushing these boundaries and you're trying to find, you're going to try to see where your body pushes back, so,
yeah, for
and,
sure.
and like you said, the social media is a big factor where you're seeing everybody's best time. So you're like, why can't I do that? And you just try to push
Yeah,
to that every single day. And it's just not sustainable.
yeah. It's not. I think everyone's body is built differently. I've talked to handful of different runners, and I've seen people have success running 80-mile weeks, 100-mile weeks
Yeah.
as a marathoner versus someone even running a 40-mile week or a 60-mile week, just just the same success. Same times as a marathon times between them two are close in range.
Really,
And it's
actually.
interesting to see, yeah. So it's interesting to see that that everyone's body is built very differently. Sometimes this person that's doing 40 to 60 miles a week is doing a lot more cross training. It might not
Mm,
just be wear and tear of just running 100 miles, 80 miles. Um, And then it also, again, that comes down to experience. Like, did they start running in high school versus did they start running, more in their adult life? How
Yeah.
much mileage have they been building up kind of throughout the years? So I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting to see that.
And so that's actually really interesting that you mentioned that guys running 80, 100 versus 40
Yeah.
um, have can have similar times in the marathon. And so, do you think that maybe pace of training has more effect on outcome of a marathon, let's say, versus total distance covered?
Yeah, I think intentionality and quality of runs definitely plays a massive role. There might be someone that doesn't know what they're doing when they're training, and they might be, you know, running the same type of run every single day. Like, let's say their
Yeah,
runs are 8-minute miles every single day through the whole week, and they're doing that running 100 miles. I mean, they probably won't be if they're running 100 miles. They know what they're doing for the
yeah,
most part. But I'm just saying hypothetically, versus someone that might be running 60 miles a week and kind of mixing up their runs with speed workouts, very easy runs, recovery runs, things like
yeah,
that, they might have a better outcome. And I'm not saying that's, going to be the facts for like every single runner.
yeah,
But it's just training. I'm just saying, like, just training with intentionality, and being smart with your training. I think it goes a long way.
yeah. I completely agree with that as well. I think the intention has a lot to do with any sport, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of research on that as well in terms of intention while you're training. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. And so what do you think do you think there's a different, what, like for a guy like, David Goggins, for example, the first person to come to
Yeah.
my mind, can run these crazy runs. Obviously, I don't think you see everything behind the scenes in terms of injury and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you think separates a guy like that versus somebody who, may get injured on a 60-mile week? Um,
Yeah. I think there's a handful of stuff. It could be nutrition. It could be, again, experience of how long you've been doing that. David Goggins, maybe this, I mean, this could be his like full-time job, right? Like, of just being an athlete, having the right team behind him, getting his right recovery in, um, a handful of factors, versus someone that, maybe just started out running,
hmm.
um, and shouldn't just be doing like these massive runs.
Yeah.
Um, that definitely leads to injury.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still don't understand how they do the 100 miles.
Yeah,
Really.
it's
Would
just
you ever
another
do one?
level. No, not at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think. Like, one thing, I haven't even done a marathon yet, and so a lot of people are shocked about that. For me, it's just, a distance that I think is challenging, of course, but it just doesn't seem appealing to me at this point, in my
Yeah.
running journey. Um, and it's always, whenever I enter a race, I want to like race it. I don't want to just run it to finish it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm kind of that competitive person also to myself. I want to see, how far I can push my limits as well. Um, and so 100 miles, definitely a no.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be like, okay, I hate running for the rest of my life after
Yeah.
training for this
That's
thing.
that's a that's
You
a good
know,
point as well. Yeah.
some of those races are definitely take you to a certain place in your training where it's very polarizing. You either fall in love with the sport after that, or you just absolutely hate it. And
Yeah.
so I guess there's always that risk involved with it.
Yeah, just hating running after that. And so,
Yeah.
so do you think is there a plan for a marathon like this year or next year, or are you not even
No,
thinking about
nothing,
that?
nothing planned this year. Um, I don't know. If an opportunity presented itself where someone's like, "Hey, do you want to come run this marathon?" Or, if I worked with a brand that was like, "Okay, do you want to come run this marathon for us?" I would definitely train for it.
Yeah,
But I think
you need that
personally, like,
motivating factor.
yeah, um, I think in general, it takes up so much time. Again,
Yeah,
like, I'm just in that athlete mindset. Like, if this was my first marathon, I would want it to be something special.
yeah,
Um, so I know that like my training would just take over my whole life, and I don't think I'm at that point right now where I just kind of want to fully commit to,
Yeah.
a full training block for the marathon.
Yeah. So how I mean, with people that you know or you've heard of, how long or how many hours a day would like a marathon training, like leading
Oh,
up to a marathon take?
I don't know, man.
How many hours are you kind of training a day ish on like your,
I
let's say
think
your longest day?
on my longest day, I'd say at least like 3 hours because I want to consider recovery time,
Yeah.
spending time foam rolling,
Yeah, that
eating,
can,
all that stuff too, right? That adds
yeah.
up. Making sure I'm getting like at least 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah. That's the big
That's a
thing.
big part. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
big part for me. So, um, yeah, I think with the marathon training, that would have to almost like double up, right?
Oh my goodness, man.
Getting those double digit runs in on the weekends, getting up to like 20 miles, 22 miles on the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, that's a few hour run right there.
Yeah, it takes up your
So
life, like you said.
yeah.
You know.
And then after that run, you just like don't want to do anything afterwards, right? Like you just want to be in bed all day after. So, um, not something I'm ready for yet, quite yet. I think my body just, I don't know if how it would respond to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean that's a again, it's a milestone for runners as well. The
yeah,
marathon, and like you said, you want it to be you like I can relate to the competitive nature of it. And so
yeah,
I know I can understand wanting to be ready and motivated for one.
for
Um
sure.
but so I kind of wanted to ask as well for runners that are kind of just starting out, um, in terms of milestones they can expect along their journey, or maybe what you've kind of experienced. What are like the is there, or like what are the minute per mile like milestones that you would say, or like to expect, like
Um,
roughly, like for example, you can use
yeah.
yourself as an example.
So I think again, it comes down to everyone's goals. Someone might just be doing it for the pure enjoyment of it. So, they might not care about the times that they're running. And starting out, though, I would say if you are competitive and you are pushing it, you're going to see a huge improvement in the beginning. Kind of even with like what I was doing of just constantly racing my time. It's
Mm-hmm.
just because you're starting from zero almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, if you have a little sport background, you're going to have some of that athletic nature in you to kind of challenge yourself and learn to kind of get uncomfortable with certain runs. Um, so you're always going to see an improvement. First couple of years, I definitely saw like a jump of like, okay, like I'm running. This is a benchmark, and I'm not saying this applies to everyone. I was running like let's say 8 minute 30-second minute per miles, like on a 5K. And
Okay.
then within a month, that would easily drop to like 8 minutes or like 7:30 per mile
Mm.
in the 5K. Just because my body learned how to kind of get more uncomfortable. It got more in shape. My fitness level increased a little bit. Um, but kind of taking the approach that I did in the beginning of training, of constantly racing that, obviously you hit like kind of like a plateau at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so those milestones will kind of plateau. And I would say, going back to like training methods, I would say since, distance running isn't aerobic sport, like you kind of just have to do more long, slow runs to kind of build that. Um, and then just kind of do some speed workouts to get that race pace feel and get your body used to some of that faster pace. And so that's kind of where you'll see more improvement over time. Um, so
And so
yeah,
is that how
I would
you
say
break
those.
through? Is that how you break through those kind of plateaus? Is the longer
Yeah,
distance, or sorry, slower pace, longer distance?
yeah. So I think once I kind of learned that, and in the past few years of just building like base miles, I think during COVID was kind of where I just didn't have any races, and I think no one had races, and so would just go on these long, slow runs, and just enjoy them, relax, not do it for like time or anything like that. Is kind of really where my endurance built up. Because anything over like even like a mile, I would say it's still almost considered like an endurance run. Like
Yeah.
you're going, 4 laps around a track or wherever you are. Um, you still have to have that endurance. And so even doing those long runs kind of helped me overall. And then kind of combining that with speed workouts is where you kind of really find the speed, and your ability to hold that speed is built up from, those longer runs.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable too for people just starting out, is because I think plateaus can be very discouraging
Yeah.
for athletes in general, and I think having a strategy to get through them is really important.
Yeah.
Um, but I did want to ask you, do shoes, in your opinion, play that big of a, I guess, do shoes give you that big of a performance boost? Let's say a
Oh yeah,
basic
for sure.
shoe versus
Carbon
like
plated.
the exactly like stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a discussion that a lot of us have. And I for sure definitely think it does. I think it plays a
Yeah,
massive role. I think the first time I ever threw on a pair of carbon plated shoes, just to test them out on an easy run, I was going like a minute per mile faster. And I was
really.
like, holy crap, like, why is this thing propelling me forward? And like, why am I out of breath already? Like,
Wow,
just because you don't realize like the carbon plate, the foam that they're using in there in combination is just like literally just like propelling you forward. Um,
wow,
and I've had other friends that like when they first bought their carbon plated shoes to test them out on a run, they were like, and I'll be like, yo, we got to pull it back. Like, you're running this way too fast. Um, I think, yeah, it does a massive performance boost. And one argument, I don't know how true it is, of that a lot of people say is like, oh, you're not a pro runner, you're not super fast. Like, why are you wearing carbon plated shoes? Um, but there's been articles out there that says it actually, I think it benefits amateur runners a lot more than pro runners. Because pro runners are already like at that like top level that the carbon shoes are probably gonna do like, maybe 1%
hmm
improvement for them. And I think they kind of did this study with the Nike Vaporfly, like 4% when they first came out, and they say that 4% improvement actually usually like, I think it actually applies to like amateur runners. Like, they'll see the
mm,
most benefit from it, from that tech.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I don't quote me on this. I would say like I definitely recall this article, but I'm not 100% like sure, so I don't want to be like, okay, this is like the scientific
yeah.
study on it. I definitely would have to like source it or quote it from somewhere, but um, I would say yeah, like amateur runners, I would say for me at least in my experience, I saw a massive like increase in performance in wearing carbon plated shoes.
And so, would you recommend it, or would you say like stick with the basics, tough it out with the
I
basics?
would recommend it. I enjoy it. They're a fun
Yeah,
ride.
yeah,
There's studies and people saying like, oh, it causes injury if you wear it too often. Like I know people have dealt with like Achilles issues,
okay,
just because the way it loads like your like calves and your legs, your lower legs, on your run, because the carbon plate's like kind of assisting you on your run. That people have found issues with it. Um, so I wouldn't say wear it every single run, like especially your easy runs. Like, don't wear it on your easy runs.
yeah,
But honestly, I like to have them on my speed workouts, like tempo runs, my faster runs, and sometimes even my long runs. I enjoy them. It just feels like my recovery is like way faster, like the next day after wearing them. Like, my legs just feel a lot
yeah,
fresher. And enough people have said that as well. But again, everyone's body responds differently. Like, if you start feeling like you're having like Achilles issues or tendonitis in your Achilles or stuff like that, like obviously I would just go back to like just using those for like your speed sessions and your race days.
yeah. It's been an interesting conversation, especially when I can't remember what his name is exactly, when he broke the record for the
Oh,
marathon.
Kipchoge, yep.
Yeah, exactly. And he was wearing those Nike, whatever
Yeah, those were the Vaporflies
the
at the
Vaporflies.
time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Um, that whole conversation of whether they should be banned or not
yeah,
was was really interesting to see. I mean, I guess you can't really ban them just because it's a shoe,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, I mean, there was that whole discussion on it. I mean, that shoe was built around Kipchoge and breaking a 2 hour marathon record.
yeah,
And again, Nike's like the wizard of like marketing, and so were they going to be banned? I don't think they ever were, just because Nike plays such a big role in the running world. Um, and from a marketing standpoint, I think during one of the Olympic trials, people were complaining about it. About, oh, this shoe. I think when the Alpha Flies came out, actually, those were the even thicker ones.
yeah. Those are the ones I was thinking of.
So
Yeah,
people were like, this should be banned, all this stuff. And I believe the Olympic Committee or the World Athletic Association um, ended up not banning them. But during the Olympic marathon trials, I believe, like, I don't know if this was like 4 years ago, other athletes were complaining, okay, this is an unfair advantage. Like, the Nike athletes have this. And so what Nike did from their marketing perspective, they gave every runner the shoe for free at the trials. So they're basically like, we're evening the playing ground. You guys can have this same shoe, just so like, we can be all on the same even playing field.
yeah.
And so that was kind of an
That's
interesting
hilarious.
thing that they did. Obviously, something that Nike can do with the budget
Yeah,
that they have.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, I think but I think what stemmed from that was, not just looking at Nike, but it stemmed other shoe brands and shoe companies to kind of step out of their comfort zone and improve their technology as well. So now you're seeing a ton of running shoe brands with carbon plated shoes now. Almost every single running brand company has a carbon plated shoe. And if you're
Yeah,
not, then you're kind of like falling behind.
yeah,
So it
exactly.
definitely kickstarted something good.
Yeah, it's definitely good for the. I mean, it's good for the sport. I mean,
Yeah.
competition amongst a competition in general is just good for everything. You know, it forces everybody to raise their level.
Yeah.
And so, what shoes are you wearing currently on your on, or what are your
Oh,
favorite ones right now that you have?
yeah. So I actually just posted like a reel of like my current rotation. I have a
Okay,
bunch of
cool.
stuff. Yeah. So I have for my easy days, I'm running in a pair like a New Balance More XV4, which is like a max cushion shoe. And then I also have like a pair of Nike Pegasus 40s that just came out. So I'm running in those. Um, and then I can't go wrong with the Vaporflies. So all the Nike Vaporflies. I really enjoyed the Vaporfly 2, which was out, which has been out for a while, and then the Vaporfly 3 just came out.
Okay.
And so those have a little more cushioning, a little lighter, um, and so those are just like a fast, fun shoe to use on race day. Like,
Yeah.
it just that thing propels you forward.
And so, I saw those black and white ones with like the thick sole.
Oh yeah, the
Which
Mizuno's.
are those the Mizunos?
Yeah, so those
How do you
are
find those?
Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro. Those are really nice. Obviously, they're stacked up a little higher, so if you're on a course that requires some more turns, it
Your
might be a little
ankles.
unstable for some people. I mean, I've never found issues taking turns too much. It's just, I think it's the way you plant your foot. But those are a carbon infused plate. Those have a carbon infused plate in them, so it's not fully carbon plated. But
Okay.
those have like a nice pop to them as well. Like I raced a 10K in that, and that was a nice speedy shoe.
Yeah,
So
I saw those on your page. I thought those were my favorite just off
yeah,
the look, man.
yeah. A lot of people were like commenting on that. It's a fun shoe. It definitely gets a lot of questions, a lot of looks, and so a big reason why I enjoy wearing those.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, listen, man, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. You got a lot of good tidbits out of that. Um, I just have to stop it now, and we gotta just wait till it
No problem.
we just gotta wait till it fully uploads. Let me see
Yeah,
if
no problem.
yeah.